Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have an opportunity to go back in time, probably the 1960s, and work on an older style level line bait casting fishing reel. This one is a True Temper Lagoon 130, and those of you that know the history of True Temper know that they purchased Ocean City in 1957, and by the 60s they had changed the Ocean City branding over to the True Temper brand. So this is likely an earlier design from Ocean City, and well, like all old reels, it just needs a little tender love and attention here. It is working. It turns hard. You can see I need kind of lever the handle there, but it is spooled with the older braid, and we're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, and how to keep it running for another 60 years. Well, if you like these types of videos, I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. Today we're working on an old school bait casting reel. Tomorrow it might be the latest in trolling reel or spinning reel or whatever kind of shows up in my shop. And the whole idea behind the channel is to teach you how to do this service yourself. We're removing the exterior part first. We're going to come over to the case and do that. We took the handle off by removing the screw, and now there's two screws that hold this side plate together. So we're going to remove those, and when we do, we want to make a note that all the two screws are the same size, so we don't need to concern ourselves with which one goes in which place. With that out now, we should be able to just simply pull off the side plate, and as you can see, these are relatively simple reels. There is a drive gear on the spool. That's what just is off there. You want to do a cleaning, a parts inspection, and a lubrication in order to complete the servicing of a reel. We're going to just kind of back this out so that I can clean underneath this cavity here. And these bait casting reels, a lot of people don't give them the credit that they deserve. They think, well, they're old. We've been replacing these now with all kinds of interesting technologies, interesting materials like graphite. People will think, state of the art, go for like a Alexa or something like that. Interestingly enough, these reels, when they are maintained properly, can be every bit as good as the newer counterparts, and every bit as dependable. So kind of fun. There's some groups out there that like to just focus on older rods and reels and actually have competitions not only about casting the reels but catching fish with them, of course. And recently I did a video, showed you how to cast one of these. I used a Fluger Supreme reel, and I'm sure this one will cast just as nicely. Well, I just did an awful lot in a short period of time introducing you to this. I've used a combination of some penetrating oil, some rod and reel cleaner, a little bit of cotton swabs, paper towels, and kitchen scrubbies to complete the task. But look at how nice all that dirt, grease, and debris and everything came off that case. Very nice. The cosmetics on this case is held up nicely. All right. While I have the worm gear exposed, I want to check the teeth and make sure that they're okay. They are. And if you needed to, you could remove the pawl from the carrier. The pawl is held in place here, and inspect that as well. Well, we might as well deal with the pawl. Let's take the screw out of the bottom. Just remove my glove for a moment here. When you remove that screw, that'll open up the plate right here, and then you have the pawl underneath. And one of the fun things about this is that they actually gave you two sides to the pawl. So you have a top side. This one's got dirt on it, so it's a good thing that we did take it out. You want to get all that old dirt and grease out of there because that's going to slow down the tracking of this. And then here's the fun thing with it. If that one broke, you simply reversed it. What a nice idea in American engineering, if you will. Okay, let's reinstall the pawl. Put a little drop of oil in there. Bring your pawl back in. And sometimes if you have big fingers like I do, you're going to need an assist. The assist here, I'm just going to grab it with my pliers that I used to take it out. Once you've reseated the pawl, take the cap, put that over the assembly, grab your screw, and put a little bit of grease on that screw here, the screwdriver. Probably should have kept my glove on. And then let's reinsert the screw to tie this assembly down. Hard to do this with the camera and the small screws in my hands. We'll get it done. Okay, then just make sure it's driving, which it is nicely. Alright, time to put the glove back on and get back to work. We're just taking fishing reel grease now. I'm using Penn Precision reel grease for that. And I'm just greasing the non-gear side and the gear side. And the gear side, remember, has the pinion gear attached to it. Try and work that through. Most of the time, I recommend that you take the line off, but this is an old school reel here that happens to have all of the old braid on it, and you're not going to find braid any longer like this, so you might as well leave it on. Alright, put that aside for a moment, and as you can see, it's a relatively simple but necessary service. You want to push the main gear through now, and that's where all of the issue is. You can see all of the dried greases and the like in the case here. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did with the case itself. I'm going to start by using a penetrating oil as a solvent. Do the best I can in terms of removing the grease from the inside of the case. It looks like it's done pretty well. Remember, we had a little bit of a puddle of grease there. And then we should be able to push the main stem through so that we can do a little bit more cleaning here. I want to clean both sides. And sometimes you're going to need an assist. I'm going to use a piece of very fine steel wool to bring off the greases that were dried behind. That's one of the places where it was sticking. And I'm going to use a hard bristle brush to pull all the old grease out of the gear drive. Well, if you have a question on this reel or any reel, maybe you have a memory of something with this reel, I would encourage you to leave the question in the comment section, and that comment section will help get you to me, and I will try to respond to you with any questions you may have. Okay, I just was ready to put this back on, and I realized that there's a metal washer here that goes on, so let's take care of that. Washer will go on here, and we can put the main gear on. And we can grease the drive for the pinion gear, the drive for the worm gear. This is a good place to tell you, if you're not familiar with these reels, take pictures. Because if you start the service of a reel and you kind of forget how it goes, well, you're going to be stuck. And you're going to have to kind of use some brain power to figure it out. So I always recommend taking pictures. I take pictures. I'm doing a video. You don't have to do a video. You can do a cell phone camera or traditional cameras of any description, or possibly a digital camera and the like. Okay, I don't have that stem all the way seated, so I want to back this out. to make sure that the gear is all the way out on both, because it won't seat properly if it isn't. So now it's properly seated. Try that again, bring that back in. And it should turn pretty easily right away. Now while I have that stem there, I'm going to hold it, but I'm going to use a kitchen scrubby that has some rod and reel cleaner on it, just to clean up some of that old debris and film and the light that's gathered on here over time. Look how nice that paint is after you do that. Alright, let's grab the handle. Put the handle on so that we can hold that main gear in place. And then let's grab the handle nut. And I want to do this before I put it back on the reel because I want to make sure that everything's turning the way it should. You never know. This one's a pretty simple reel, but you could have trapped something inside. You just want to make sure that it goes nice and easy. Well, of course it spins nice and easy. That's what I was expecting, but again, you never know. Now we have two handles here that are frozen onto the stem. They've actually swollen onto it. They're not turning, and there's very little you can do to free those up. So when I get a reel in for service that has a handle that's stuck like that, I leave it alone. There is a couple of folks that have told me that they use a heat gun to try and reverse the shrink. I don't know it. I'm not recommending it. I'm just telling you that that is what I've been told as an alternative. But again, I'm not going to do that. We're going to leave that alone. We're going to appreciate that the older reel is kind of set that way. Alright, well I need to move this spool in. I'll line the holes for the screws. And then we can put the two screws back on, and then we'll play with the adjusters. Make sure that this spins nicely. I use a micro driver for these screws. It's got a pretty thin head to it. Just making sure our gears are meshed in. And you want to make sure when you're doing this that the side plate is nice and tight against the frame. If it's not tight against the frame, it's not going to work properly. You're going to have gears that are out of sync. Alright, let's see what we can do. Oh, look at that. Instead of the trappings that were going on, this one runs nice and smooth. Now you can adjust. You have cast controls here. There you go. Those cast controls will control the spin. This reel is what's known as a knuckle buster reel. When you go to cast, the line is going to move out. There is no anti-reverse that's going to be in play. So as you're casting, you'll notice, I'm going to pull a line out, you'll notice that the handle turns backwards. And as you go to retrieve, you turn the handle forward. Of course, when you cast now, you're going to put the line through that line guide. I'm trapping the line on the side of the spool here. And then you're going to retrieve like this. So that's it. That's your True Temper Lagoon 130. It's a reel from the 1960s. We know that because of when True Temper took over for Ocean City. And it's a nice example of an older reel that can go fishing again. I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. To everyone, please stay safe, stay well, stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.